Okay, so hi Jeffrey, thanks very much for joining me today.
No problems. Nice to meet you.
I'm Jonathan Herps, founder and CEO of Scale Up Growth Partners. As I mentioned, welcome to Stories of Scaling Up, where I'm interviewing CEOs, founders, business leaders of scaling companies. And the idea is to learn from you and share some learnings. So if you're okay, we might just jump straight in.
Good. Fantastic.
Great. So today I'm speaking with Jeffrey Williams, and he's CEO of Barcats. And when we get into it, it's a fab company. When I was doing my research, it's really interesting. So welcome. Let's just start with, what do you do?
Well, 20 odd years of corporate life. I worked for some big multinationals around the world, and about 5.5 years ago decided that I'd had enough of all those processes and demand planning meetings and HR every week in my office, and really wanted to do something for myself. And that was about building a hospitality community with staff on one side looking for work, and then venues on the other side looking for staff. I knew that from my old corporate days that the big corporates ultimately want to improve their advocacy and ambassadorship at the point of purchase with venue staff and also venues, and that if we can provide better training and education and connections to those big brands, there's a real holistic hospitality community there to be made. So 5 years ago, literally 5 years ago next week, we set off into Sydney, Melbourne and Brisbane, and started pounding the pavement. And what we have now is Barcats is up and running across Australia, New Zealand, and we launched into the UK 2 weeks ago.
Oh, great. Congratulations.
Thank you. We've got 125,000 active staff members on the site that are looking for work all the time. We work with about 36,000 venues across those areas. And we work with some of Australia, New Zealand's, and now England's biggest sponsors like Coca-Cola, ABI InBev, Diageo, Treasury Wines, Lion. Lion's actually a part owner in the business. We work with federal governments, providing training and getting people off welfare, building confidence. We also have an under-18s platform working with kids. So it's a cheeky little startup that's just starting to get to a scale-up sort of perspective.
Fabulous. So, I mean, what a great time to start, right into COVID.
Yeah, exactly. We had 2 years of disruption. My corporate upbringing was pretty significant, and one of the things that corporates do really well is train crisis management. And I think COVID was great for us because we were really decisive. We moved very, very quickly, and actually our diversity in markets really helped. So when Victoria was closed, Queensland was pumping, and when Auckland was up and running, we had some disruption in Sydney. But then equally, when Auckland then went into closure, Sydney was up and running again. So just that diversity of markets really helped. And coming out of COVID, oh my God, every second news story is about the lack of staff shortages and training and education and the requirements of how do we get back to normal. So we've certainly been very, very popular over these last 6 or so months.
Great. So I mean, what lessons have you taken out of COVID that you continue to implement into the business?
I think the ultimate lesson, and it's probably for I speak to, equally like yourself, speak to lots and lots of startups and startup CEOs, and I think one of the things that's made us ultimately quite successful is that we have a very, very strong strategy. But the most important part of that strategy is we spend 90% of our time executing it, and it's really about moving to execution very quickly. So, setting up the business 5 years ago, I spent nothing but the first 6 months doing about 7 kilometres a day, pounding the pavement with our sales guys, hitting venue after venue. There's not too many venues I haven't been into across Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Auckland that I don't know firsthand. And I think that's the humble nature of being a CEO, is that actually you've got to roll up your sleeves. And, I still do everyone's email accounts to expenses to setting up their flights to, I'm the PA, the cleaner, the CEO, the salesperson. But I love it. I love that getting back to basics. I call it the humbleness of being a CEO, but it's certainly the ones that I see fail or failing are generally the ones that have got the great ideas and the great strategy, but they forget about the execution piece. And they're setting up there with wonderful apps or platforms and waiting for people to find them. And
I'm laughing. I don't know if you can see that. This is me mapping out processes, right, and building the checklists and SOPs. So I know exactly where you're at.
Yeah.
So you mentioned startup, scale-up. How many staff do you
have? We've now got 46 staff members, with 14 now joining us in the UK. So we've got about 32 in Australia and New Zealand, 14 now in the UK. We'll have 105 by Christmas.
Lots of complexity.
Yeah. And staffing is probably what's my board asks me all the time. What's the biggest barrier to our success? And it's staff members. It's can you find the next person that's going to take you on another 10%, another 20%? Do they truly share your dream and ambition and trying to get people that aren't employees but actually are truly hearts and minds and connected and want to do that extra 10 or 20%?
And are they working with you remotely? It's a hybrid. How's it all working?
Yeah, so we've got an office here in Sydney that has about 8 or so people in the office, and then the vast majority are on the road, working, pounding the pavement in venues. We have a really, really vibrant WhatsApp group that is fun, energetic, and that's we're sharing every day messages of both support, wins, losses, fun around that, and then we try to twice a month to get people together for our values awards, or whether it be we call it the shout out. We connect around a little bit more formal sort of processes, and then once a year or once every 6 months we try to find a way to physically get everybody together. I've just spent literally 4 weeks in the UK with the UK team, inducting them and getting them into good space. And there's nothing better than sharing a Jaeger bomb with somebody whilst at the same time inducting them into what hospitality is all about.
Oh, it's become too old for a Jaeger bomb. Got to get up with my two 8-year-olds. Yeah. So tell me, what do you reckon your biggest learning has been, having come out of corporate into your own business?
Yeah, it's a good question. The biggest learning, I think, is that, and I wrote this down on my phone in the first couple of weeks of starting Barcats, was every day someone's going to tell you can't do it. And there's a reason that's, that sounds just like something else I've seen. Oh, haven't you heard there's 3 other competitors, or there's a US business going to come and do that? So it's human nature that your friends, your competitors, your customers want to try to help you, but by helping you tell you about all the things of why it's not going to work. So the thing I had on my phone that reminded me each day was just be bloody minded, be resilient, and just keep pushing forward, and really be confident around what you've got, and you will win the day. You just win the day if you've got that attitude of, cool, it's great to have competitors. It's great to have a new entrant coming in. I'm confident in what I'm doing, and there's enough room for all of us. And what was interesting is during COVID, the vast majority of our early startup competitors dropped away because they just weren't as fluid. They weren't as quick to sort of make the decisions. They sort of mothballed their company quickly. Oh my God, I can't. I'll come back to it. And we went from 72,000 staff members to 105,000 staff members during that period. So we just grew. We just kept on growing.
They're extraordinary numbers, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
No,
we hit 2.2 million people every month on social media. We're a small little tiny business, but we have a really strong. We punch well above our weight, and that's.
Congratulations! It's really interesting. One of those characteristics of entrepreneurs is persistence. You get knocked down, and how the song goes, you get back up again. It's one of the key characteristics of successful entrepreneurs.
I think the other thing for me is being single-minded about your one idea as well, and keep that execution really simple. Once you've done that, then you can layer on the complexity and layer on 1 or 2 things. But you're constantly tested with distractions. Oh, you should do a little bit. little bit more of this or a little bit more of that, or what, this platform would be even better for X, Y, Z. If you can keep to your knitting and do that really well, and prove you can do that really well, then you can layer on the next bit. But do that foundation, do that. What are you going to be famous for? What are you going to be successful for? Do that really well first.
It's interesting. I have a coach, and I spent 4 hours with him last night, and we were talking about unique ability, both of the CEO, me, and also my company. And it is that laser focus.
Yep.
So tell me, the word successful. Who's the first person who comes to mind?
Wow. Geez. I was going to be self-centered. I'm successful. I've got that many mentors and friends and so forth that I would jump to mind of being the guys that balance. I've got lots of family friends that are mums, that are working mums, that are balancing life. That I'd say they're massively successful. They're managing great careers while at the same time being great parents and so forth. Lots of sporting icons that I'm heavily involved with my golf, heavily involved with my football team, Carlton, and great successes in all of those spaces. But what the common goal that they all have is that they're genuine people. And I like, one of the things that I've got an amazing black book, I guess, or just a huge amount of friends that I would say are friends, connections, but are friends. And that's really helped Barcats, certainly, because, when we started the business, I had all these people offering me support and help. And that was because the relationships that I built over many, many years are genuine. And I think that's absolutely the key in that space, is that you see lots of perceived successful people, but they don't have genuine relationships along the way. That they've stepped on people to get to where they've got to. Whereas I generally surround myself with people that are actually, people that you want to spend time with forevermore.
It's interesting you say that, and congratulations, because you're a bit of a rarity in that respect. I ask my clients and client teams, and I run a couple of accelerator masterminds for CEOs. Yep. And just recently I've been asking them, who are the top 5 people you spend your time with in business, and who are the top 5 people you spend your time personally with, and do they add value to your life? And it's a crack of a question.
Absolutely.
And how many, particularly entrepreneurs, forget to keep those connections and contacts up because we get so focused. I love your comment about working mums. So if you know what, I'm looking for a practice manager now, who my preferred option is actually is a mum with kids at school. If you know someone, let me know, please.
Likewise, I've been saying that for nearly 5 years. Of just my sort of co-founder is one of the most brilliant working mums I know, that is based in Brisbane, Alison Johnson, and she's been a force of nature. She and I both went to the UK. She's fabulous. But if I could replicate 5 more Alisons, then nothing would stop us. But every week I'm chasing that next unicorn of where's the next great working mum. And unfortunately, you do need to sort of hunt outside of the box, because they're not yet on LinkedIn, and they're not certainly looking on Seek. You do actually have to find them at the next barbecue, or just encourage them out of and let them build some confidence along the time.
It's interesting to say that. I got slapped over the wrist the other day. I promoted this into the WhatsApp group for my daughter's netball team and my son's rugby team, which I coached, and I got slapped on the wrist. No promotion. Anyway, question. So books, podcasts, business blogs, biographies of leaders, are there any you'd recommend?
It's really funny because I get asked that a little bit. I can't remember in the last 5 years a blog, a podcast, I just haven't read. I literally and I relay it to other people of, guys, I'm 120% consumed doing it. You know, I'm really am. I've got a great board. I've got a great group of very small investors. So we've only got a cap table of 11 or 12, and they are all, you know, and Nick Falloon, who's deputy chair of Channel 9 and you know, chair of Domain. I'm very fortunate that I also get to play golf with him once every 2 weeks or so, and he's my mentor. You know, I get to bounce off him every 2 weeks. You know, I've got a Ross Greenwood on the other side who's 30 years as the business editor. Yeah, and he interviews people every day, and he's a mate and a friend. So I'm surrounded by great people that I don't need to fill time up with by the sort of the cookie cutter approach or the 7 steps of Covey, or, you know, and that's not to say there's a place for that, but I do. My feedback to a lot of startups are, guys, get out of the headphones and just, it's in front, open the eyes and get out in the street and start settling and executing, because honestly, you're going to learn by doing, and go and make mistakes. And it's actually one of the things that Nick actually gave me early advice. Was, when you're coming out of corporate, one of the things corporates teach you really, really well is just go and trial in 100 stores, go and do this for 10 or 12 weeks, learn, and then go and reapply. Don't do that. As a startup, just go big, fail really quickly. You know, so we launched into Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane on day one. Literally Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane on day one. We had 3.5 months worth of money in our pockets. It was either going to work or it wasn't going to work. And sure enough, you know, you learn quick and you adapt and you make it work. And that's the best piece of advice I could give.
Perfect. Thank you. And, you know, yes, who's the word successful and mentors and learning? You've answered the question. Surround yourself with the right people. Jeffrey, thank you so much. Thank you so much. So it's really interesting. I really appreciate it. I know our followers will love it.
Fantastic.
So
no, I really appreciate it. Jump on Barcats. If you've got daughters or sons that are looking for work, or mums or dads looking to get back into the workforce, Barcats is here to help, and we've got some great training packages. We're also
your website as well?
www.barcats.com. Could be easier.
Perfect. Jeffrey, thanks so much.
Thanks, Todd. Speak soon. Bye.